Otrajā daļā vairāk tiks runāts par to, kā sevi pareizāk pozicionēt starptautiskajā mūzikas tirgū, un ir pārstāvis, kurš varētu vairāk runāt par rietumu mūzikas tirgu, un ir pārstāvis, kurš vairāk arī varētu runāt par austrumu mūzikas tirgu. Tā kā šī semināra daļā Guna Zučika palīdzēs ar jautājumiem industrijas pārstāvjiem. Tātad Šeins Šapiro, jūs jau iepazināties ar viņu pirmajā daļā, Boris Barabanovs un Pīters Dženers, un viņi paši īsumā izstāstīs par sevi, kas viņi ir, ko viņi dara, lai jums rastos vairāk priekšstats, kāpēc viņi šeit šodien ir. Tā kā patīkamu klausīšanos.
All the good stuff, all the good stuff. Labdien! Mēs runāsim angļu valodā, un ja jums ir kādi jautājumi, tad, lai negaidītu un jautājumi neaizmirstās, tad, ja ir kaut kas nesaprotams, tad uzreiz celiet roku un būs cilvēks, kurš jums atnesīs mikrofonu, un ir svarīgi, ka jūs jautājumu sakiet arī mikrofonā, lai arī tie, kas ir pie saviem datoriem šobrīd dzirdētu, kas jums ir uz sirds. Welcome, and we already know everything about Shain, so we will skip his, at least the things we should know, and what we are allowed to know. But let's start with the short introductions by Peter and Boris.
So what do you want? I've been working in the music industry in the UK since 1966. And I've managed a lot of people. Started with the Pink Floyd, and then they realized they better get a proper manager. And I then managed various people through the years. And for the last 25 years, I've mainly been working with Billy Bragg. But in between, I worked with lots of people like The Clash and the ENG and Tyrannosaurus Rex and all sorts of people, Robin Hitchcock, Roy Harper, all sorts of people. And I was involved with the Music Managers Forum and the International Music Managers Forum, and I go to a lot of conferences and I waffle. I'm a great waffler. So when you get me going, I'll give you loads and loads of bullshit.
That's why we are sharing the microphone, so I can, you know.
Take it back from me.
Boris?
Слышно так, да? Is it okay? English?
I think English, so that Peter and Shain.
So I'm a journalist. I work in Moscow for the biggest business newspaper called Kommersant as a music writer, and also I'm involved in different processes in music industry, from promoting bands to making some radio and TV programs, and for example, last 1.5 years I was working as a music director of Evening Urgent, which is #1 evening show on Channel 1 in Russia. So different things, but main occupation is journalist, and I write about music every day. So this is who I am.
And maybe let's start with we are talking about the music export, but of course the obvious thing is band performs or band has songs recorded. But what are the assets within music industry you can export?
Well, the music, basically, and I mean, everything comes from the music, I think, initially. It comes from the whether you like the music, and then how you present the music, and how you drive the music. And I think that to be successful, the music has to be, apart from all the sensible things that Shain says, but the most important thing is it has to be unique. I do think that if you're just another band, you're just another band. And I don't know whether you understand what the implications of what I'm saying. But if you're just another band, 2 guitars, bass and drums, playing blues music, you're just another band, 2 guitars, bass. You're never going to sell outside of your own market. You might have a good time, but you've got to have something which is unique, something which makes you stand out from the crowd. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. If people like what you do, and you're the only person who does it, or the only group that does it, then people have got to come and see you play, or they've got to buy your records, or get your downloads, or however, whatever they're going to do. And they're going to tell their friends about it, and they're going to have a relationship with you, which if you're just another band, you're just another band. You go out and you see them, oh, that was a nice evening, you know, and you remember what you had for supper, and we saw a band, you know. When that happens, you have a problem. So that question of having that unique relationship means that you then perhaps will want to buy the T-shirt and wear the T-shirt, because you're identifying with the band, and you're identifying with other people who like that band, because people see you wearing the T-shirt and say, oh, you like that artist? I love him too, he or she. They're great, aren't they? And you talk about it. And it's a key, absolutely key thing, that you have to have there's a disgusting sort of marketing term, expression called the unique selling proposition. And I hate the fact that it's marketing. I hate the basic notion, but it's actually true. It's got to be something which is unique. And it doesn't have to be very unique, but just a little bit unique, because everything is so similar that something which is not quite as similar sounds fantastic. So I've just been talking to someone who has a band with 3 cellos, and I instantly wanted to know about it. Instantly, because 3 cellos, my God, that's got to be weird. I want to listen to that. I want to hear that. Because if it works, it's going to be something which I've not heard before. And if it's something I've not heard before, I'm going to be interested. I've been listening to music for 60 years, and I've heard an awful lot of it. And I don't want to hear more of that. I've heard that one. I've heard that one. I've heard that one. 3 cellos? Fucking hell, I better have a listen to that one. And so, you know, I think that that's really important, which is also why, you know, I go on about, one of my things I keep saying is, sing in your own language, sing your own songs, steal from your own musical heritage. Don't steal from the Anglo-American heritage. Steal from your own heritage. You know, hear that folk song and write a song which is not quite that folk song with your own lyrics, and, you know, it has its own feel. And you're more likely to get through than if you try and sound like, you know, Led Zeppelin or R.E.M. You know, we've got Led Zeppelin, or we've had Led Zeppelin, we've had R.E.M. We're not really interested in another one. No one wants another David Bowie. We've had David Bowie. No one wants another Pink Floyd. We've had the Pink Floyd. You know, so if I want a Pink Floyd, I'll listen to Pink Floyd. I don't want to hear an imitation Pink Floyd. And I think that's really the most important thing. Have I gone completely off track? I think I have.
But anyway, it was really interesting, I think. I was more also curious about what do you understand with the music export? Because, like, yes, because we have, let's say, a band, a music, but there is these all the things like copyrights or these other assets you can export.
Yeah, okay, yeah. They're all things which hang on the end of it. You know, at the end of the day, you may have all the copyrights in the world, but if no one's interested in the band, the copyright's worth nothing. A copyright is only worth what people are willing to pay for it. And if no one wants to pay for the band, then your copyrights aren't worth anything. Now, if you're saying to me, if you go abroad, make sure that you've got your copyrights taken care of, absolutely. But I think in a way it's almost a secondary consideration. The important thing is to get out there and to find people who like what you do. And in a sense, if people steal your stuff, that's really good. I mean, I heard that, and I don't know if this is true, it's a myth, but it's a good myth, is that Bill Gates was told about the fact that everybody was pinching Microsoft's operating system in China. And he said, that's great. He said, what do you mean that's great? They're stealing. He said, yeah, but then once they've all got Microsoft on their computers, they're going to have to buy all the stuff I'm selling them. They're going to have to buy Word. They're going to have to buy all the rest of it. And then all the official people, all the companies, the big companies and the government things, and they won't better use, you know. So we're into the market. And that's really important. The important thing is to get your music out there. And by all means have it licensed and sorted out. You know. And I think the most important thing, though, is registries. And this is as we're going into the digital world. The most important thing is to have records of who played on the record, of any recording or any live thing which was captured, who was there, who was playing, what the songs were, and who owns all those songs, and whenever you write a song, who was involved in writing the song, and have it in some way registered or recorded. Hopefully that's a formal structure, but if it's not formal, just keep it and don't lose it. Because in the time to come in the future, all payment is going to be done on the basis of numbers. The numbers on a recording are going to be what justify how you get paid. If you haven't got the numbers on the recording, you're not going to get paid. And if you don't have the numbers on the song, you're not going to get paid. Now, that's not now, but that's looking 5-10 years ahead. And I think that the issue of data and having the data of what you're recording and what's been played is really important, because when you're into the digital world, no one is going to be able to work out how to spell a Latvian name, or even worse, a Russian name, or even worse, a Chinese name. This stuff ain't going to get through. You don't know what it is. It's squiggles. You know, equally, when you go to China and your name is in English, it's just squiggles. So numbers is something which travels across the world. And so you have to collect your material so that you can stick numbers on it when the numbering time comes. The numbering time will come, and it'll come soon. And if you're clever, or if you're lucky, it's already being organized here. I still haven't answered the question.
But it's okay. But maybe we were talking about, one thing was about the export ready, but the other thing is that there are nowadays more and more niche markets. How do, Shane, maybe when you were working with Canadian bands, how do you, when you are talking with them, how you tell like which markets you are going into? Because of course you can't take straight away all the world, but how you can measure which are the first markets for the band to try to enter?
Well, there's a lot of analytics that exist. All right.
Who's interested? That's the answer.
No, I agree. Yeah. Okay. All right. The punk answer, the DIY, the right answer. Yeah. Who's interested? You know, if someone says, yeah, they're interested, you go.
How you tell who is interested first? Like
I have to do the other side of the coin here, right? The analytics. So no, it's true. You know, a lot of it is heart and passion, and you know, but there's a lot of bands that say my music will work in Germany, and I'm like, what the fuck do you base that on? And they go, absolutely nothing. And I go, okay, well then, you know, and I do believe that we have the tools. I'm a nerd, so I like data. I like analyzing things, and we live in a world where people can listen to music without buying it, whether that's stealing it or streaming it. I'm totally pro stealing music as well. I think fine. It's a marketing tool. If you want something and you get it for free, at least try to support the artist in another way by telling people that you're listening to the music, putting it up on social media. But you can tell literally down to the person's address who is listening to your music. It's not hard. Their tools exist within all digital distribution systems, or most digital distribution systems, within your YouTube backend that can tell you literally who cares. So yeah, there's a certain passion about it, like, oh, I think it'll work here, I think it'll work there, but what we do is we look at the data. That's a really boring answer. I'm sorry, but we do. You know, we look at the data, and we say, okay, you had X amount of plays here. All right, let's go there. But then we can, you know, through power of deduction, you can communicate with these people, like through social media and stuff. You can actually find out if they give a shit or if they don't. But that's what we do.
I mean, the buyers respond to what people
the buyers,
in the local market. So if people want you to come and play, then if you can afford it, you should go and play. You know, if they want you to come, You should
of
go.
Course.
You know, if you're going to say, should I go to so and spend all my, mortgage my house and go to conquer America? Don't. You know, wait till someone wants you to go. And at least you've got someone who's interested.
Yeah,
I mean, you can maybe say to your export office, hey, we're getting a lot of hits in America. And then the export office say, oh, yeah, where? And you say, well, in Idaho. And they say, well, I don't think you should bother to go to Idaho, you know.
What if all your songs are about potatoes?
Well, unless your songs are about potatoes, exactly. No, so I mean, I think that in some senses, the market determines where you get asked. So when I say just go where you're asked to go, it may be that the only person who really likes what you're doing is the promoter of that festival. But the very fact that that festival wants you there will probably mean that quite a lot of other people will like it because the promoter is part of their market and they'll promote it.
Yeah, it's that simple thing is don't make the decision yourself, ever. You think you can go somewhere, that doesn't mean anything. It's you have to go, even if it's one person, you're right. If it's a promoter in a city and they're willing to invest in you in some way, and it's not just financial investment, it's time, it's promotion, it's heart, it's all sorts of other investments, then if you can afford it, go. Yeah, follow your passion. But, again, I'm super conservative, which I hate. All that. I'm not politically conservative, I'm politically liberal, but I'm conservative when it comes to business. And I always believe that you should always be thinking about your next opportunity when you do something. And so you should go where you feel that there's a growth proposition. That's a stupid marketing term. Growth proposition. I don't know. I don't have an MBA, so I just use these bullshit terms, thinking that they mean something.
When I started working with Billy Bragg, who was a solo artist, when we started, no one knew who he was or what he was, and I said to him, or we decided together, that he would do any gig that someone was willing to pay his fares, give him a meal, and put him up for the night, because he had no market, so that anybody who was willing to do that, it was worth going. And I think variations of that apply all the way up the food chain. So if they're willing to pay for you to come with your 2 trucks and your 5 roadies, then you should probably go there if you possibly can when you've got the time. There comes a time when you maybe have so many people wanting you to come, you've got to decide where to go. That's when I think you can exercise judgment, and you may get it right or you may get it wrong. And it may be just that you like the food in that country. I always wanted to go to Italy. It was always a disaster, but the food's really
horrible
nice.
Touring market, but the food's
horrible touring market.
Spain. I have an office in Spain. It's based on tapas.
And Shain, but when you were working with the export office, how does you still do. Yeah. How do export offices decide? We were talking about all the showcase events. How export offices in the territories you are working with decides which are exactly the events to invest?
Well, we speak to people, and we look at the successes of other people in other offices. Some of them are fairly. In terms of the showcase world, some of them are fairly basic, like we know which ones to go to, and we know which ones not to go to. If you're planning on... Maybe
you can name...
Yeah, well, the 2 main ones for rock and all the versions of rock music, indie rock, whatever, guitar rock, indie folk, all that stuff, would be the Great Escape in the UK, in Brighton, and Reeperbahn Festival. Those would be your 2 biggest. Talent Music Week is developing. It's becoming okay. It's got growth. Womex is still important from a business perspective. Showcasing there can be a righteous pain in the ass, but from a business perspective, Womex, if you perform quote-unquote world music, I hate that definition, that term. Thank you, Martin Elborn. And what else? Jazz Ahead, if you're a jazz artist, is the only one worth going to. And Meet-Em is really not worth going to. Sorry. Oh, yeah, of course. Eurosonic is a Canadian in my head. Yeah, Eurosonic is really important. That is the main gathering for festival bookers across Europe.
Shane doesn't know about it because they don't take Canadian bands.
No, but they take German
European
bands, but we do that. So, yeah, no, I go to Eurosonic every year, and I went without actually working with any artists that were there because it was that important. Yeah, Eurosonic is good. Am I missing any? There's tons and tons of them. Those are your main ones, I would say.
I think you've got to really know the game. Because there is a sort of point at which it's so big and everybody goes there that you just get buried. And I suspect that Eurosonic is getting close to that. South by Southwest has gone past it several years ago, where you know, unless you're already established, no one's going to come to your show. And it's very expensive to get there. Eurosonic, it's not so expensive to get there, but it's a real pain in the arse to get there because it's in the back end of nowhere.
Yeah, it is.
And it's very cold. Well, you don't mind that. You're used to that. But it's very cold, and it's in the back end of nowhere, but it's really full of people who are booking things. But it's the same problem. There are loads and loads of things. Will anyone notice you?
Yeah, we have... we have regions of Canada that do showcases at South by Southwest, and all they do is they bring all the people that would go see them in that region to a venue in Texas, and then the people that are there are the people from that region. It's a really massive waste of taxpayer money in Austin. And
you get out of Canadian winter.
But you get out of the Canadian winter. But when I was working at this label, we had an act that benefited substantially. We had actually two. We had a band called Frightened Rabbit, and we had another band called We Were Promised Jetpacks, and they both benefited extensively from South by Southwest in America. But there's over 2,000 bands that play, and it's hugely expensive. I think it all depends. Like, it's that whole do it when you're ready thing. I can't define when you're ready, but if you're not confident that you're not going to get people's attention, then don't do it. You can always say, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, can we come next year? Yeah.
Maybe we can touch this point about one thing is being ready musically, creatively, but also about infrastructure. As you were telling, like all these events, they have many bands playing. And what are the steps for, let's say, the band and management? They have heard from some other people. They are expert ready, as we learned from your speech. What will be the steps, how to start going on showcases?
Boris? The steps to start
going? The first step is to get booked.
Yeah.
It's get booked, and then when you get there, you run around, if the band and the manager, if he's there or he or she is there, and the band run around with bits of paper, and anyone they can find, they badger them like Gunnar does, and you give them bits of paper, and you invite them to come down, and you are really friendly. It's just human thing. Come to the show, and then if you've got some support from the festival or the showcase, people like it and give it good presence. It's all about talking it up. It's all about promotion. It's all about marketing. It's all, if I can use the word again, it's all about bullshit. Have you got the story to tell? Why should I bother to come and see your band? You've got to have an answer for that.
The bullshit's framed on relationships because you need to make sure that whoever you're bullshitting trusts your bullshit. It's true. Like, we all talk, we all do. We all talk, and especially, like, when you start to get comfortable with yourself in this business, and it does take a little bit of time when you stop worrying about how am I going to pay the rent, and you start worrying a little bit about, how am I going to grow things, your bullshit goes up. And you have to, and, everyone has their tactics. Gunnar, I think you're pretty good at it, not at promoting the bands that you work with. There is one thing that artists never do. I think I recommended it to someone here is go to a place as a business person and just network with people before you perform. That's all. Maybe Talent Music Week is the best one because it's cheap to get to, considering. And just go and experience it. Like, if you don't know about a place, then it's hard to make these conscious decisions. If you go and you do your research, which is important, and your research could just be getting drunk and learning people's bullshit. And there's loads of people who will just talk complete and utter bollocks to you all the time about how great their band is, then, I can't believe I used the word bollocks, and then you go see them and they're terrible. You're like, that's the thing. It's like, that's the one thing about bullshit is you have to back it up. You have to back it up with substantive results, or I think there's no future there.
Yeah, and another thing you can do if you're a musician, especially if you are a singer and you've got a guitar, is that you can't get booked for that event. You go to the event, not only do you find out what's going on, but you sing on the street.
Yeah, you busk.
Too cold. You busk. You get yourself noticed. And the classic again with Billy Bragg was we went to do the new music seminar years and years and years ago when it was a very important event, and we got himself. He plays electric guitar and sings, which was sort of not many people did that then. And so we built a portable PA thing, which he carried on his back on a rucksack. And he had microphone and had speakers on his shoulders. And he went round the conference singing songs. Now, in a music conference, the last thing you expect is any music. So if someone came in here and started walking around playing a guitar and singing songs, we'd all, cool, blimey, who was that? And people noticed him. And people noticed him. And we stole that from Elvis Costello, who had played outside of his record company convention in the UK and played the acoustic guitar and bust outside of there. So you have to do stuff that gets you noticed. Sometimes people do that by dressing up in something outrageous and stupid. That's very dangerous, because the danger is that you think, they're outrageous and stupid. I'm not interested in outrageous, stupid people. I'll take their word for it that they're outrageous and stupid. So you have this sort of, it's quite an art. She's fantastic. Guna is one of the best blaggers. I'm very keen on Instrumenti. I really like them. She dragged me down to see them at Eurosonic. She saw me. We'd met elsewhere on some other sort of thing. And she said, oh, you must come and see this band. And so I said, oh, all right, I will. And then I thought, oh, God, I better go, or else I'll really be in trouble. And she found me and made sure I went. And, because I said I'd go. And then I felt I had to go. And I went. And I thought they were great. And I would never have gone to see them. Because Instrumenti, who are they? I hadn't heard of them. Latvia, what? Yeah, I know where Latvia is, almost.
Someone does.
I know somewhere. But go, Instrumenti, Latvian band? No, I would never have got on. But she grabbed me and dragged me down, and that, but in her nicest way. She's not very big. She didn't use force. She's just very charming.
Yeah, but there's the thing. If she dragged you down to the band and they weren't good, that's the last time that she would ever drag you to a band. That's the thing. You have to be confident in your instincts, and it's a very careful game, because I have to do this too, and I have to go see this band. They're great, and I won't say that unless I truly, genuinely believe in the band. I'll give you a leaflet with 27 Canadian bands. And I'm like, knock yourself out. But I will say this band's brilliant, and we will always pick, one or two. There was one band last year at the Great Escape called Royal Canoe that we love, and I dragged 5 or 6 agents down. Every single one of them wanted to book them, and then they ended up now working with a guy named Nick Holroyd from Primary, who books Alt J. And they supported Alt J in America. They're coming back and supporting Alt J on their next tour in the UK. And I don't know, is Alt J big here? No? Is this a name that means nothing to you? Okay, you should check them out. They're amazing. They're a British band called Alt-J, A-L-T-J. They won the Mercury Music Prize. They play big theaters in the UK. This is the thing. I say this all the time thinking that people know, and then it makes me look like an idiot. So... But again, especially at places like South by, Great Escape, Reeperbahn, there's 300 bands that play Reeperbahn. There's 300 bands that play the Great Escape. There's God knows how many bands play South by Southwest. So if you're pushing something, you have to be genuinely confident. And what I do is I only recommend things that I know the person I'm recommending to will at least understand musically. That's so what I do. I go out of my way to try to figure out what other people like. I do. I spend a lot of my time asking what people listen to, looking at their management roster, their booking roster. And there's a lot of people who will send, if you're a metal band and you send your stuff to a folk agent. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And that takes a lot of time. And, Guna, you're really good at this. And there are others. And Guna came to a festival that we did in Spain, and we tried to select those bands that performed. They were all different genres, but we tried to select them based on the people that were there, and a couple of them succeeded. And that's another thing, is a 1% success rate is still success. Okay, so if you get one person out of 100 who cares about you, that one person cares about you. That's fine. What's wrong with that? Right? And again, I'm completely and utterly like impervious. No, I have no issue with failure. I get rejected all the time, just in life and in business, and I'm just not bothered anymore. So if someone says no, someone says no. I don't take it personally, because enough people have said yes over time that you begin to learn that it doesn't really matter that if someone says no. And the last thing I'm going to say, because Boris hasn't even said anything, is if someone says no, leave it. Don't go back to them, because then you come off like an annoying prat. And we don't like annoying people. So if someone says no, say thank you very much, move on to the next person. There's tons of people in this business that won't say no.
If they've listened to it.
Oh yeah, if they've listened to it, yeah, of course.
If they haven't listened to it, you can go on. You can go on until they've listened to it. But once they say, I saw the show, I heard the record, or whatever it is, and I didn't like it, then you leave them alone.
Right? As a journalist, you must get
Let's get Boris into the conversation. We were talking, it was more how the things sort of work with all the showcases and everything when you are trying to get into so-called Western markets. But because Latvia are in such geographical situation that for many bands and artists, Russia and former Soviet republics are also a very interesting market. How would you say how to get into Russian market?
So First, I wanted to say that it's a very strange situation that I have to talk about Russian market in English and before the people who mostly know Russian. But at first, I think it's good for my neighbors. Okay. Anyway, my English is better than my Latvian, which is 0. So I will try to explain in English. And of course, talking about Russian market, you talk about the hugest market maybe after China and India. Maybe even this market doesn't know how big it is, because it's not using that big that it deserves. And the gates to the Russian market are, maybe there are 3 gates. The first gate is this nostalgia gate through New Wave Festival and Raimond Pauls Slaima Vaikule round, and this is one. The second is making Russian hit for mainstream pop radio, like Russian radio, and this is the second thing. And the third thing is like we would say indie way. So of course, maybe for young people who are mostly here, the new wave situation is not so interesting and kind of, we would say in Russian, naftalin, but naftalin way. But anyway, I can say about my experience. If I didn't visit Jurmala every year since maybe 2005 or 6, or even earlier on New Wave, I would never have such friends like any of my Latvian friends, because visiting that old stuff shows, at the same moment I was connecting to other people, meeting some new faces, new talents. Somebody were giving me demos, and I traveled a lot around Riga, visiting some parties. So and now I can say that I have much bigger picture about Latvian music than I had earlier. And the starting point was this funny festival. Of course, I mean not straight participation, you know, in the contests that goes there. But maybe it helps, but mostly not. Of course, the contest is not maybe the most respectable part of this event. Maybe the aim of this event is not music, but I think maybe selling of houses in Jurmala. I don't know, but anyway, this event is very important for me to I mean, it's good gate, and I think it's possible to keep yourself to be yourself, even using this you know, round of people who are every year here, every summer in this festival, as your, you know, mediums to Russian market. And of course, meaning this old school Russian estrada things, you have to sing in Russian. So I think anyway it's main thing. For Russian market you have to sing in Russian. And even when we will talk about it later, even if you are indie band, of course, yes, there is market for English singing bands. But it's much better when you have Russian songs. And talking about for example, about the mainstream radios, mainstream radio stations like Russian radio, the better way is to have a duet with some Russian star. And of course, it's also very important to have to learn maybe some Russian words to sing your part in this duet. And it's much more acceptable and more perspectives when you have this bilingual or Russian language song with somebody to get to the radio. Like the best example is Brainstorm, who didn't sing Russian, and they had some fans in Russia when they had this earlier hits like Maybe and some else. There were people who were listening to them and who could sing along with them and who saw them on Eurovision and so on. But after they recorded duos with B2 band, and then they recorded the Russian version of their hits. Выходные, how was it in Latvian? Yes? Yes, of course it changed everything, and then they...
Dienās, kad lidlauks pārāk tāls. Nē.
Нет, не так. Wrong? So, and then they found really good, as I can see, they found really good text writer who started to make a brilliant Russian lyrics for them. One of the best Russian lyrics on the whole Russian market, including the Russian bands. So this Stas Timofeyev, yes?
Sergei Timofeyevs.
Sergei Timofeyev. Yeah? Yeah. So I think he's a great poet, really. So,
he lives in Latvia. He's a journalist.
So I think this is the good way to get there. And talking about this situation on indie scene, I think it's better to have a few songs in Russian also. And okay, texts, we understand what's happening with lyrics. Russians love to understand lyrics. But even if you sing in English, or even in Latvia, you can have some gigging history in Russia. And what are the things you have to know? It's better to have some permanent, some constant partner in Moscow or St. Petersburg, your representative who understand what's happening on club market, who understand what's happening on festival market, and even on the market of private concerts, private parties, which is, I think, number one place where you can really earn money now. It's a fact, because when you go to festival to play festival, you have fixed fee, very small. when you go to if you are the beginner on this market, if you go to play in club, they can offer you some percentage, which means almost always it means you will maybe cover your fares, but you will not earn anything until you will become bigger and more famous. But if you really can find some crazy, stupid oligarch who really loves music, or whose daughter loves the singer of your band, or the singers of all the bands in the world. So this is the good way to get there. And it is, believe me, it is not so rare thing to find this way. Because, as it was said before, in the first part of our conversation, people still love music. People still want more good quality music. And I was surprised when, for example, helping some musicians, some acts, to get to Russian audience, Moscow audience, to the Moscow market. Sometimes the radio stations say, this is not our format, we will not play this because our audience will not accept it, and so on, so on, so on, like everywhere in the world. And next hour you meet some millionaire who says, that's a good thing, let's do that. And how much is it? Oh, well, yes, no problem. Yeah, no trading.
The album title should be I Love All
it's a good cover of the album. They look good. What do they play? Like what? Like Radiohead? Like, oh no, it's boring. Like what? Like ACDC? That's okay. Like who? Like Brainstorm? Oh, like Brainstorm. Yeah, let's take them. So sometimes it's really that way, because Russia, it's really place with huge possibilities, huge opportunities to promote your music. So it's better to have somebody who is living there and who understand all this, thin networkings. So that's what I can say. And what else?
Should start like an export office just for oligarchs, like where we just pitch bands to.
I
know there is. I know a couple agencies that do it too.
Sure.
It's like,
I can be killed if I will try to start.
Yeah,
this.
I know.
It's a business. So, what else I wanted to maybe about the releasing of the music, the selling of the music in Russia. It's very interesting that now we have Russian iTunes, and the tracks and albums are cheaper than in other world. But anyway, to sell there, even if you uploaded your songs there, to sell it there, you have to promote it by other sources, of course, like the radio, TV, and so on. That's why I would say, yes, it's okay. It's good if you sell, if you are on all the platforms that exist. But anyway, radio, TV, and gigging in Russia in different places, in different audiences are very important. And the last thing, we were discussing it this morning, never forget that you need visa to get to Russia. You need visa, and your musicians or you yourself have to check all the details about getting there, because if you will find that, so you understand, visas, work permissions if you need, so all this bureaucracy side of work there, you have to mean it and to remember that it's all should be clean, you know. So
and have a tour manager who speaks Russian.
Yeah, of course, sure.
And if we are talking about the differences between infrastructure in Western markets and Eastern markets, for example, when you were telling you have to have a person there in Russia, which kind of sector from the industry you meant? Like it was, I believe it was more about having a person who does all the bookings, or like releases, bookings, and so on and so on. What kind of sectors are right now more important in Eastern part or Western part?
Eastern part?
Like in Russia, for example, we were talking that live music is the main. What are you concentrating? Yes. So most likely this person which you need is to look for some booking agency, right?
I would not say we have a lot of booking agencies. I think it's it's like managers who do all mostly. Some people try to organize the strictly booking agencies, like we buy tour and we do only tour, but touring, we're responsible only for touring. But I think it should be like some group of people who are responsible for all the activities of the artist from here. And what I wanted to say, for what Latvia sells, what I'm thinking about, what Latvia sells to Russia, it is very good combination between, the memories about the past when Latvia meant the Baltic, Pribaltica meant something very like our West. Yes, what I mean. And now it is like advanced and modern culture. So this mix of nostalgic Yurmal emotions and very modern instrumenti emotions. Like this is what Latvia means for us. And maybe it's a bit, maybe paradox that as it was said before, that now in our world it is not so important where are you from. It is if your songs are good, you are good. It is not so important where are you from. But from other side, of course, Latvia means a lot for Russian audience, mostly not so young, but for young audience as well. And you have to remember this fact that your identity, which is not necessarily like folk songs or outfits, but your identity is quite important for Russian and post-Soviet audience.
And how we were already touching this question about how important it is where you come from. If it's not so important, then why there is so few artists who are, let's say, globally known, which comes from not UK or America and so on and so on?
Well, people aren't very good map readers. No, well, the history of popular music has been dominated by primarily Anglo-Saxon, I guess, kind of context. The Beatles came from Britain and the Rolling Stones came from Britain. Blues music was invented or appropriated, whatever, in America, and old blues music is what birthed R&B and rock and roll and so on and so forth. So there's a long history there that didn't start in Latvia, right? Unfortunately, so you have to rally, or Hungary or Israel or any place. So, and you have to rally against, in a way, that history. It's in, historically, most of Canada's most famous artists, people think are American. And that's okay. We don't really care. But
just give us the money.
Yeah. Yeah, just give us the money. It's like you tell someone, oh, Joni Mitchell's Canadian or Leonard Cohen's Canadian. They're like, no, he's not.
Neil Young.
Neil Young, someone in the band. And unfortunately Justin Bieber. But people have to realize where the history of music, where music comes from. in a popular realm. In a popular realm, that's what I mean.
I think on this there's something which I'm not sure, and I'm not a musicologist, but I suspect that one of the things about why English is so important is because the rhythm of the language suits the rhythm of the music. And that if you try and sing sort of rock and roll in German, it sounds pretty weird. If you try and sing it in French, it sounds even weirder. And I think that that's really important. If you think in terms of the sort of songs that were very popular for the French in the 50s, and none of you would remember that, but they were very, sort of French and Italian music is much more melodic, much more romantic, and the language suits that. English language doesn't suit, but English language has a sort of a mixture of softness and hardness which suits rock and roll. And I think that's one of the reasons that the rhythm of the language has a lot to do with why I'm very interested in encouraging people to sing in their own language, because I think it moves you into a different musical context a little bit. And that gives you a distinctiveness.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, again, if you're taking a musical history from America or Britain and then you're appropriating your own slant on it, which is fine, but singing in English, you're never going to sound like you're from America or Britain. And that's the thing, we can tell. We can tell where people, if English isn't their first language and they sing in English, usually a native English speaker can tell.
I can give a good example of Ukraine. A lot of Ukrainian bands are playing in Russia regularly. A lot of stars in Russia are living in Ukraine or original Ukrainians. But some of them sing in Ukrainian language, which is a bit rhythmically, it's a bit closer to English language for rock and roll and so on. Some of them sing only in Russian, and nobody care where are they from. Some of them, for example, say they stress this, that they are from Ukraine. Some of them, nobody knows where, really nobody understands where they're from, that they live in Kiev. So maybe the Ukrainian language is closer, it's Slavic language, and it's closer to Russian because some people catch some similar words, which doesn't mean that they mean the same, but it sounds similar.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But it is good. This is a good example because for Latvia, because I know that there are strictly Latvian singers, strictly Russian singers, or hip hop, rappers who rap in Russian in Riga. I know that there are some. So it's for Russia. If you think about Russian market, it is like it can be different. I think if a song is good, it will work. But it's a good. I mean, just check the Ukrainian experience. How do they work in this in the meaning of language?
But it's we started running the quote unquote German music export office, and Germany's notoriously shit at exporting its music. I'm sure you're well aware. You've heard of Rammstein and Kraftwerk and what else? And we've discovered that the German language. Germany has a pretty healthy domestic market where they sing in German, huge market, and but we've found very minimal luck exporting guitar bands, but we're getting a huge amount of success exporting electronic music, mainly from Berlin. And there's artists like Coma or Roosevelt or Dark Side. These are all German electronic music artists, and we're getting a lot of traction. And maybe that's just maybe it's a recognition of what you're best at. I don't know. Maybe there is a form of music here that I don't know that, it doesn't have to be folk music. It's German electronic music was still created in its core in the United States because synthesizers were invented in the United States.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, the thing is with both hip hop and electronic music is that you can adjust the tempos.
Yeah,
and you can get the tempo of the music to fit with the tempo of the language and the accents of the language. And I think one of the interesting things is that hip-hop of one sort and another is enormously successful everywhere in the world.
Everywhere, yeah.
In every language. Because you're not bound to the sort of structures of traditional Anglo-American sort of music structures, and I think this is very important. Can I just slightly deviate into the whole English language issue? Because it seems to me that although I'm saying I think on the whole you're going to be better off singing in your own language, on the whole, because you'll feel the rhythms and it will sound more distinctive. But it's really important that you then have some good talk between the songs explaining what the hell you're going on about, because at least it's a sort of courtesy to your audience. And I think that English and American acts are very bad at that. But when they do, I've noticed if you do learn to speak a few words in the local language, it makes a contact with the audience. It shows that you know that you are where you are, that you actually are not just in another town in America, but you're actually in Latvia. If you can have a few words in Latvian, it's fantastic. And I have to say, I'm really bad at that. I can't even say thank you in Latvian. Yeah. And I feel really embarrassed. Every now and then, I feel really embarrassed, but I don't know how to say good morning, hello, thank you, yes, no. I can't say any of that. And it makes me feel embarrassed. And I think that it should make you feel a bit angry with me. Why the fuck should we speak English when you can't be bothered to speak Latvian? And I think that you're right to think that, you know.
No, there's a few things there. I try to go out of my way to learn a couple phrases in every language that I have to learn. It's hello, thank you, one beer please, and I'm a vegetarian. Those are the two. Those are usually it. And I was just in Poland and I had to do that. But it feels amazing when you order a beer from someone and you say thank you and they smile, you know. And there's this guy, like stage performance is very interesting. When we talk to Canadian artists that are touring in countries in which English is the second language, there's three things that the best ones do that create contact with the audience. The first is eye contact. Very few people make eye contact on stage with the audience, and that's because sometimes you're busy doing shit, pushing pedals or whatever, or playing. You have to be confident enough in your performance that you can actually look at the audience. That's one. Two, making sure you say thank you in the native language in between the songs, what Peter said. And third thing is right after the show, you say, hey, everyone, I will be at the merch table. And go straight to the merch table. And
very good.
No, but it is. And this is the thing. Right after the show, say, hey, everyone, thank you so much for coming. Or thank you in the native language. I am going to be over there for the next 20 minutes. I will sign anything. Come and say hello to me. And you'd be surprised how much your merch sales go up. Try it. You know, we've funded tours based on just saying, we'll be there. And we go and you sit there for 20 minutes. And you meet, if no one comes, whatever, you lost 20 minutes. But you'd be surprised. And if people do not speak your language, that contact is gold. That because it breaks down the barrier of language. And language can be a barrier for people who are not confident. There's loads of people who speak perfect English but say my English is shit. Like you, Ignace, your English is perfectly fine. And it embarrasses me that my any language that I speak outside of English is not anywhere near as good as yours as a second language. And when we have a Canadian band in Latvia, I'm sure there are many have played here before, but ones will say, just say, you know, what is it? Paldies is thank you. And, hey, all right. And,
smarmy bastard.
Damn right. And I'll be at the merch table after this.
Selling your kind of future book of export office.
Selling, you know, selling.
Pre-order.
Selling, hopefully, you know, welcoming me back to Latvia, I guess. And also, last thing is trying to learn some stereotypical or hilarious thing about the culture and mentioning it, like how here, you know, black balsam is a traditionally Latvian thing. Doesn't exist anywhere else. It exists here. So we always say something about it. Say something about their culture that they may find slightly embarrassing. You say, oh, can I, you know, and it works a lot in Germany. all these types of things. It works really well in Germany. And you know, we've seen it time and time again. And these are tiny little things that you can do. You know, I'm trying to remember the beer one. I know beer is alu. Alus, all right, there we go. And the other one, I don't remember the other one. Hello, I don't remember that. Oh, ciao. Ciao is goodbye in most languages. But it is amazing that Latvian is it's a completely different language to what I thought. You know, I know a little bit of Lithuanian, but it's kind of like that. But that's all. All you have to do is you have to be sensitive to the tricks of the trade. And you can make someone think that you care without actually caring.
That's too much. You're going too far.
Too far? Was that too much bullshit? All right.
No, too true.
I'm joking. Am I?
And if we return a little bit to some practical advices, like
that was practical.
Go
to the merch table. All right.
That's very practical.
Yeah.
For example, if we are talking about, let's say, when you are going to these, we return to the showcases. Okay, you have a gig which is booked at the showcase. Can you suggest any other tips, like you were telling about contacting people at the place? But what are the main things to prepare before you go there?
A few. One is find out about all the other bands that are playing, and try to make contact with ones that you like, and just say, hey, you're great, let's meet up. Communicate with them over Twitter as well. Just, hey, at X band, looking forward to seeing you at X festival. Try to understand the delegates and the buyers that will be there. If you're at a festival that has delegates and buyers, like a Eurosonic, there's a back end of their system that your representative will get a login for, or you'll get a login for. Take some time. Those would definitely be two things that I would think of. And, you know, don't spam people. Like, don't just send massive mail-outs of come see my band. I think that any time you promote yourself to someone, it should be individual. I like it when people address emails to me, hopefully spelling my name right, but addressing emails to me. And just, you know, come see this band. It doesn't really work anymore, because we all get so many emails. And when you go to Eurosonic, you get, like, bombarded with crap. God, when you go to South by, hundreds of emails about, oh, my band is playing at this crappy venue with a terrible PA. That, you know, that, and so, and not only is there South by, and then you start getting emails from people playing the Red Gorilla Fest, right? Which is even more annoying. There's a festival that happens at the same time as South by Southwest called Red Gorilla Fest, which is all the bands that didn't get into South by but still want to play South by. There's another 600 bands that play at the shittier venues that South by doesn't use. And you start getting emails from those people. And it's just like, it just gets on and on and on. And I believe that if you target things properly and you find, oh, that person works with that band, they're fucking great, I'm going to email you. And you email them, and then there hopefully begins a relationship.
I recommend that you carry cards, very old-fashioned but very useful. Yeah. Even better is CDs in cardboard covers, so they're not too bulky. And on cards and and CDs,
I disagree.
Remember, he disagrees, but that's all right, because as long as you've got on there that the web address and phone numbers and the manager's name and the agent's name, if you've got all that stuff on the CD, that's fine. They can take the CD, they can tear off the bit that they want to keep, and then you've got that. I mean, it's really important that you have, because one of the things that you do is you get bombarded with stuff, and it's really nice to have some sort of, the reason why I quite like CDs is it gives you some sort of visual thing, and it's another help in remembering. But what really is annoying when someone gives you a CD and it doesn't have any contact
or it doesn't work in your
or it doesn't work or whatever. But worst of all is when it doesn't have the contact on it. All it tells you is it's the Red Gorillas, and that's all you know. And that is just gone. You know, you may not ever use the CD. That's fine. I think it's a physical thing that you can look at and you can write it down in so that you can read it. But if someone comes up to you and says, I really like what you do and I think you'd like my band, and they're called the Red Gorillas, the moment they've gone and somebody else comes to speak to you, you've forgotten what their name was and when they're playing and what they're playing. So little flyers, little bits of paper, but anything that you have, make sure you have contact information on it.
And be human about it as well. I always feel like try to present some, I don't have a CD player, really. Like, the CD player on my computer doesn't work, and we have a CD player in the car, but I don't get to choose what I listen to in the car. That's not so. Saying all that, yeah, you have to give something, whether it's a CD or not. But you know, I always remember people who give me interesting things. Like, I remember an artist who gave me a book of recipes that she loved, and there was a download card attached to the recipes. There's so many examples. Think about something that you love that could build a culture, a relationship around what you do. That's part of the music. And, right, it's like one of the best examples is one of our clients is a big social media company, and we did a big consulting job advising a company that makes garden sheds on social media strategy. Garden sheds, right? Boring as fuck. Like, it's just a shed. But they're not selling a shed. They're selling the whole concept of gardening. They're selling the love of gardening. They're selling harvesting your own fruits and vegetables, all that stuff that comes with a shed. So not only are you selling your music, but you're selling you as a human being, as someone who created all this content. And I always think if you put some thought into that, and you don't just give us a cardboard sleeve is fine, but you give something that means something that is even better. And I always remember them. I remember people who hand sew their covers. I've had I had someone who gave me a Frisbee with the CD attached to the bottom of the Frisbee because he played Ultimate Frisbee. Lots. There's one who put a download card in a bar of soap and then had the bar of soap engraved in the logo of the band. So that when you use the bar of soap, then you got a download card. All sorts of clever things. Think outside the soap. But contact information, yeah.
At least a contact information,
yeah.
And if you can't think of anything else, a CD is better than nothing. It reminds you that they're a band, and you might conceivably listen to it.
Yeah, and phone number and email, ideally, right? Essential. Yeah.
Maybe we have some questions. We have been talking for 1 hour, and what is the feedback out there? Anybody?
Don't be shy. But we're leaving tomorrow, so, now's your time. Now's your
Because Agnes was looking up at you and she was speaking Latvian, and it was obvious that's what she was going to say. So you can guess these things. So come on. No one wants to ask anything.
Have we given you every single bit of information? 'Cause that's awesome. Oh, look at that. I'm listening to your record.
I have yet to record it, I'm afraid. Would you please address the issue of the lyric, foreign language lyric? It was very interesting to hear Boris,
Yes.
mention the song, and its success was, according to him, based on a very, very well done Russian language lyric, and for that matter, Gunnar pointed out he came from Latvia, the poet. And so if, as Shane says, native English speakers can tell when a non-native English speaker is singing, is that a liability, do you feel?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say, I heard that Israeli lady's Apple commercial several years ago, and
yeah.
Very noticeable accent, and it seemed to kind of be...
It was a good song, though.
It was on purpose,
Yeah,
it sounded that way. So, yeah, anyway, that's the question is about being export-ready in terms of wanting to sing in English.
I think lyrics, I don't know, like, my opinion, people write a lot of hackneyed lyrics. that just, you know, like rhyming, like, you know, love with something, or having just lyrics that mean nothing or are really cliched. I think maybe a grasp of a language means that you can write you write stronger lyrics in terms of what they mean. I think I only speak personally. I can't stand it when people write stupid songs about the rain or the sky or how much they love someone. Like, that's been done. Like, I think that the way you sing needs to just be your own. And there are people who succeed at singing in English but have a little bit of a local twang, like Yal Naim, you know, and she's on 2Part2, like it's a good French label. And no, Tout Tard. 2Part2 is a Belgian booking agency, but Tout Tard's the label. Sorry, but it's being filmed, right? So I have to get it right. I think it's more about the lyrics for me. It's not about the way you sing. It's about what you're saying. That's it. Peter, what do you think?
I think, well, not often, occasionally, a song comes through, someone singing with a distinctive accent is actually quite sexy, and is quite ear-catching and quite interesting. I think that someone who speaks almost perfect English but doesn't really quite handle English properly, that's where it really it doesn't sort of feel right. And I think if you're singing with a foreign accent, that in English is better than sort of phonetically speaking it fantastically well, but obviously you don't really feel the language. I don't know. I just feel that your own language, in some way or another, a good song is usually has some sort of poetic aspect to it, and that usually has some sort of rhythmic aspect, and working with the rhythm of the language and the rhythm of the music gives you a fantastic... most great songs have that sort of rhythm in it. And so it's a question of feeling that rhythm. If you can feel that rhythm, even though you've got a heavy accent, that may work.
And be informed by your own personal situation. We don't know about living in Riga. I'm sure there's some amazing stories that could be told through music. Not literally, you know what I mean. Like, no. Sorry, it's a Canadian sarcasm.
So
we're all like
from the aspect of exporting a musical asset, no longer talking about a performing band out in a physical location outside of the country, but a poet or a songwriter located here who is concerned about the content going out there and wants to, let's say, participate in that as the music export process. Not just the performing of it, but the preparing the content before it.
But legally, or like?
Just the asset itself, the copyright by itself as an exportable asset.
Mm-hmm.
Can you address that in isolation from these festivals and performing ensembles that have to put it out there?
I think it's really... it's very unlikely. I don't know what happens in Russia, but I mean it's very unlikely. If you're English and you just write a song, your possibility of getting anyone to cover that song, so anyone hears it, it's a really long shot, and it's most likely that you'll initially get that song out by you recording it, and then maybe somebody else then comes along and sings it and has a hit with it. But I think it's really very hard to get into the market if you don't either tour or you have a, or you make a recording. Now, once in a blue moon, there might be a publisher who you work with who arranges a translation of the song, Frank Sinatra's My Way was not Frank Sinatra's song, but it was a Jacques Brel song originally, and then it got a translation. There are examples of great songs which have been translated and into English, and I'm sure great songs which people thought were a Russian song or a Latvian song or a German song, which was actually an English song translated. So there's that. That's very, very rare nowadays. It's very tied to product, and it's very tied to a band that's touring. You know, the exposure, people knowing about it, is tied to that, or to getting played on the radio and being released. And that's why they go on about English, because English is the language you're most likely to have acceptable in the most countries. That's the attraction of English, is that it's, you know, most countries will play songs in English as well as in their local language. And there aren't many other languages in that category.
But one of the best pieces of advice I wish I got 5 years ago was, all right, how many people have sent their CD or their music out to a record label in the last year and it's been rejected? No one? Okay, great. Yeah, you can be honest. I don't care. All right, good. You know, again, rejection's a part of life. Stop caring about it. But it's, you know, there's a huge, I believe there are a lot of opportunities for songwriters, regardless of where you live nowadays, and they're growing within the synchronization worlds. You should start sending your music to sync agents and brand representatives, and these people are all Googleable. Yeah, I don't know if you can as a Latvian artist. But yeah, you have to find someone to sing it for you, but there's lots of vocalists out there. There's lots of vocalists out there. And also things like you should have your music registered with PPL so it can be put into the BBC blanket licensing. So the BBC in the UK licenses all its music through what's called a blanket licensing program. Yeah, and there's a Latvian version, so make sure that...
LIPA, the Neighboring Rights Society.
Yeah, neighboring rights. So make sure that it's registered there, because if the BBC or someone of that sort wants to use your music, if it's not registered properly, they can't use it. So that's something that you should probably do with
PRS, performing rights to the song.
Is it also LIPA?
LIPA is Neighboring Rights and Copyrights ACA.
ACA? Okay. So make sure that you register in this context with LIPA. And ACA, of course, you have to have both. Yeah.
Two rights on I'm sure you know. If you don't know, there are two rights on a recording. There's the song that you're singing, and there's the performance of that song. And that's something which people often forget. And you should be aware that there's two streams of income.
Well, with the mechanical reproduction as well.
And then there's that. Yeah, that's the underlying song. So, okay, there's three rights, because the publishing has two rights. There's the performance and the mechanical. Find out about those things if you want to make any money out of music, recorded music.
Yeah, and when someone is interested in something, their ability to clear both sides. Do you know what I mean by that? Their ability to get the permission from all the people required so that the music can be used on an advert or whatever, often is very important, because these types of things are done very, very quickly. Sometimes a brief is sent out, i.e. a request for music for an advertisement or a film or something, is sent out at 10 a.m. and it needs to be filled by 5 p.m. And I'm not joking. And I work in the same office with a sync guy, so I've learned all this. So you have to make sure that your legalities in these contexts are properly registered. So it's very important.
Can I ask
answer your question at all? Oh, all right.
Can I ask about instrumental music? Okay. Yeah. If you play instrumental music, does it mean it's very niche and there's like no possibility for you to be on radios or something like that, or it's a possibility to get even broader audience because you're playing like classical music? Everyone listens to instrumental, but pop music not so much.
No, I think it's much more acceptable and more perspectives for instrumental music, because it's good for movies, for commercials, for I don't know, elevators, for
karaoke
and you know, for showers and saunas. So that's why I think in Russia, actually, we don't have enough qualified good product in this niche. So it should, but of course it's not about live performing, or maybe yes, I don't know if it's so.
I think,
don't know, but it definitely has market in Russia.
I think if you're trying to get on the radio and become successful from a public perspective, writing instrumental music, I think you're doomed to failure. I think if you are using your music to place in things, then there's myriad examples.
I think the problem with for instrumental music is it tends to be more anonymous. Yeah. And so it's hard for, if you hear some music on a film or something and you like it, and you're going to be doing a film, you're a filmmaker, it's very hard to actually trace what that music actually was.
Shazam.
Well, I bet they won't have it if it's just been used on the soundtrack. Yeah, so it becomes a bit anonymous. So it's a different sort of problem, and there's a whole different. You probably need a publisher, you need sync agents, you need people who can, as it were, who work in that world, in the instrumental world. There is, Boris is right. There is a big usage of music in that area, but it's something which I don't know about. I wouldn't know how to do it, and I've been in the business for 40 years, over nearly 50 years. And I wouldn't know. I would rely on my publisher to try and let me know on that. It's very tricky because, when it's a record, it's the Rolling Stones singing, and I want that Rolling Stones track, or, hey, you get out of my right, whatever it is. You've got that, and you've got a title, and you know what you want to get. You hear a piece of music in a lift, and it's really great. That would be great for my movie, but what is it? Who is it? How do I get it? So I'm sure there's networks. I don't know about them, but you should explore and find out.
One of the, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is a hint for you. One of the instrumental acts that we work with actually licenses a lot of music to adult movies, and there's a network of music libraries that provide instrumental music to porn. And it still is a reasonably healthy market. I would say Google it, but it's hard to find these companies without finding other things. But no, I'm not joking. As an instrumental act, depending if you're playing post rock, no. But anything jazzy, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised the opportunities. You laugh, but this is money. And
the other market, I suspect, is games, there's instrumental music in games, and that tends again to be a separate market. That it's usually commissioned music. You give them the rights, they pay you 2,000 something or others, and you give them 5 minutes of music of the right sort, and that's it. You don't get any money afterwards. It's a buyout. It's a gain. It's sort of like the background music for TV and things. There are these networks, and you should explore them and find out about them. Probably should talk to your publishing neighbouring your publishing, ACCA? Talk to people in ACCA. They all know a bit about this, or a lot about it. And that's the way you should go. And if you've recorded it yourself, you also need to speak to the people on the performing rights people.
And if you like a game, you should just Google game, quote-unquote, composer. And every game has composition notarization, like the person who did it, and you'd be surprised as a songwriter, especially instrumental music, gaming. I just did a conference last week focused on music and gaming, so I've in Spain. So I've learned a lot about this, and we met a guy who did the music for a game called Tearaway, which is on Sony PlayStation. It's done very well, and he never has to play a night in his life. He's doing very well. Yeah.
I just have one addition, and the good example in Russian practice, but with foreign artists. I don't know if you know the name Lindsay Stirling. She's violin player, or fiddle player, and she plays instrumental music but once upon a time she understood that it's nothing, and she started to dance with it, and she started to put it on dubstep accompaniment, and using and to offer these tracks to all the possible ways, from Game of Thrones, who didn't use that track, but she made a remix with some DJ who put it on some DJ platforms, and it worked. And then, like some computer games, I don't remember the names because I'm not a gamer. So it is instrumental music, but with person in the center of this composition, with this overloaded, strange but working approach, like dancing girl with violin, with this, you know, dubstep stuff, and so on. So this is formally it's instrumental music without words. So this is, you know, the answer.
I can only maybe add.
And she did sold outs in Russia. No airs on the radio, nothing, no promo, on the internet, and she does sold outs.
I wanted only to add that we were talking about these showcase events and so on, but usually during the day there is seminars on those events, and there is special music sync events as well. There is Mūzikas Expo in LA. Then, for example, Music and Media, which happens in Finland for the 2 or 3 years, they had special separate event which was only about sync, and they had a lot of sync agents there where you can apply and you can meet them and talk to them. So you can look at these, all the conferences we are talking about, what topics they are talking on the seminars.
And there's a sync sort of networking organization called NARIP, N-A-R-I-P. Google it, NARIP. Mm-hmm.
And they're more and more in these conferences because it's a more and more important revenue source, because, you know, record sales go down, so it's more and more significant.
That's by instrumental music, protams. Regarding the instrumental music, I'm 20 years in the music business, and the biggest income we receive from the deal we made with the instrumental track. The Russian band PPK, which is the producers, PPK,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
They took one of our writer work from the Zodiac, from the former, maybe you remember the band Zodiac. Of course, yeah. Sure. And they sample one thing they put on their new track and released in UK by Paul Oakenfold, and we receive so the best income ever from this instrumental track. So it was licensed to the various Japan games, and it was played on the radio and even entered the UK top 40. So instrumental music works.
This is a good example of Latvian export, Zodiac. And if they will, as I know, they are going to come back with like kind of modern version of their in this space pop. And if they will continue what they are doing now, I think it can be really great, because it's very in the trend of what's happening around the world. I mean, using some old stuff with some new stuff, and which is acceptable and usable for, like, not only just playing on stage but different media. So I think it's this example is example of good perspectives, I think, in Europe or worldwide.
This is getting very interesting. I've now had another thought. Is if you think about those things on YouTube with sort of dogs on, the skateboards or whatever it was, or surfboards and things like that. But again, instrumental music to some sort of interesting visual thing. Again, that you could create something which maybe would work with YouTube and generate a lot of, it's like, well, what should that be? Don't ask me, but something. There is stuff, a lot of stuff like going on like that. And I think in the future there will be more of it. In other words, that the ability to cut and paste has so far mainly been limited to sampling music on music tracks. But going forward, there's going to be an enormous amount of cutting and pasting of music with visuals. and that will be growing. I mean, there's a lot of that already, but and it will grow, and I think it will become more and more interesting. And I think that's something which, again, one could explore if you're not a singer, you're not a band, but you make music. Look for visuals which work with what you're doing. Who knows? It's a crapshoot.
And that's what you have to think. It's not about, oh, let's make a record and tour. That's really old school, as we say. It's, how can my music be used in a multitude of ways to bring revenue back to the core project? And again, we hammer on about it. All these contacts and these people are best suited, introduction-wise, by the export office. I didn't say my export office. I don't know. Well, we can get the second nicest bottle of wine tonight.
For me, it would be very interesting to know what is your vision for music industry in the future, nearest future, next 5 years. What do you see how it's develop?
You're asking all of us. Yeah. Okay, you start.
I think the music industry, the definition I think is antiquated. I don't really think there is much of a music industry anymore. I think that there's an entertainment industry, certainly, and I think it's based more on content. It's a content industry, and I think that we're going to see more integration with film, TV, advertisements, sync, YouTube as being a main source of income, Spotify and other streaming services as being a main source of income. And I also think that copyright, in some ways, will become less important, and then in other ways will become more important. I think Peter kind of understands that. It's people complaining about piracy is hopefully on its way out. I think who cares? But ensuring that you can secure your copyright to manipulate it in a number of ways. So I feel incredibly positively about it. I think I have no reason not to feel positive, and also I think there's less of a dominance of slightly less of a dominance of white men, which is good. We need more women and people who aren't white, and slightly less dominance of the English language. And I've seen this by going to places like in South America and in Africa, and there's music industries there that have nothing to do with Britain anymore, and it's growing, and I think that's an amazing thing. So, that makes sense. We need more women in the music industry. So I'm really happy that this place is way more than half full of women. It's true. Sorry, Peter, and me. Thank you, Guna.
So about future. I can only agree because I see the examples of. I see the seeds of this future now, and some acts starting not just like music act, but just like the unit who unit who does content, where you cannot say can music part exist without the visual part, or for example like very popular now in Russia, Woodkid, who is just I think video director, started
in France,
in France, who started to create music with very strange lineup, without guitars but with some drummers and with horns. So, but it's all connected to this computer internet gaming world with different images from the universe of this social networking and TV shows and so on. So, and he built the product which is very demanded and very popular. So this is the example, and it happened it is last only 2 years took to build all this stuff. Okay, maybe we can say maybe he has money to build it, but he started from sitting near the laptop and painting, drawing video effects for Lana Del Rey or somebody else. And he became a big, maybe he's now bigger than Lana Del Rey, or will be. So this is the example how it works. And for to use it in our conversation, it doesn't matter wherever you live, in small country, big country, small city, big city. It demands only the memory of your computer. This is it. So the rest is available.
I agree with all that, and I would also say there's one other thing. I think that any group that's getting together now ought to have, probably have someone that's really good on rhythm. I would say a drummer, but it might not be a drummer. It might be someone with a machine, and someone who maybe is a singer, and maybe someone who is a sort of another instrument of some sort, maybe a keyboard or maybe a guitar or maybe both, but with a visual person. I think a visual person will be part of, within 5 years, most groups that start will have a visual person. There's much more visuals on stage now. I mean, it's standard procedure that people have video on stage with what they do. The importance of having a video on YouTube as a way of developing your music. So in a more sort of pedantic way with regards to music, looking at in a sort of less general way and a less interesting way than these guys have been thinking, I think that a video person in the band will become, not only we need a video person, you'll also need a social network person, that a band will consist of a social network person and a video person as well, or perhaps maybe a visuals person, because that might affect how people dress and what fashion they have. So a visual person, a social media person, as well as the musical people, as well as perhaps a singing human front of the whole operation, male or female. And I think that this sort of, I think that the media, we're heading into a world of more and more complex multimedia, which I find particularly interesting, since the first things we put out for the Pink Floyd in 1966 was about being a multimedia experience. And I think it's taken 40 years to get here, but whether it'll get here in the next 5 years, who knows? It might take another 40 years. But I think it will be that, multimedia.
We'll find out what the Fox finally says. Yes. But that's the thing, there's a comedy duo from Norway that has a top 10 hit all over the world. That's amazing. This is, again, I stress, a comedy duo in a television show in Norway. That's what they are. They weren't a band. And they have a top 10 hit in many places, which was played in a disco in a weird bar in Riga. That's amazing, Sky Bar, the Sky Bar, not called. That's there's no rules anymore. That's the most exciting thing about the music industry.
You don't have to be a musician to make music. That's also a bit scary.
Well, yeah.
You have to. I think you have to have a musical instinct. You have to have a musical ear, a musical sort of whatever sensitivity. But you don't actually have to be a musician. But that doesn't mean it's a mistake to be a musician. That's a different. You know what I mean? It's ever becoming more and more weird. It's getting weirder. Thank God I haven't got to put up with much more of it.
Well, all right. Moving on from that. No,
Put up with a lot more weirdness.
Yeah, and I'm already going grey. But yeah, that's the thing. Just please don't think of the standard rules. Record, release, tour. Fuck all of that. There's so many things that you can do.
It might
be that way.
And it might be that too. I mean, in other words, I'm not ruling out. I don't think any of us will rule out the more sort of traditional route. No. It might be a hit single, it might be touring, or it might be some weird video shit, And
we have some sort of ambient violinist playing sold-out theaters in Russia. There's so many examples of that. It's a perfect example. A band like the Arcade Fire, they've never had a hit single. Now, if anyone's realized that, they've never had a hit single anywhere in the world, and they're one of the biggest bands in the world right now. That's cool, in a way, to have a band that is this big, never had a hit single. Led Zeppelin never had a hit single, so there, and, but Billy Joel, loads of hit singles. Sorry, more questions.
Hello, my name is Laima Dimanta, and I am a singer from here. And we've talked about about bands representing themselves and about the way that it can be successful. But at some point, when you get to a point when you think you really need a manager, or you really do need a manager, what do I do then? How do I find those people? Do I have to educate them myself? And one more question: the clients that you worked with, how did they find you? Thank you.
Most of them knocked on my door in one way or another. Every now and then I went after them, but usually they've come to me in some way or another. I think the most important thing to remember about a manager is if you have a manager, you're going to take an instant hit on your revenue of somewhere between 15 and 25%. So you've got to first ask, is this person going to generate an additional amount of money which is going to justify what they're doing, what they're taking away from you? So that means that you've also got to be in a position where you feel that your career has the potential to have that growth, which you can't realize because you're too busy writing music or singing or touring or whatever it is. But that if only you had that someone helping to do that stuff, then it could generate that extra revenue. And that's, I think, the most important consideration. Then I don't know how you find a manager. I think what you do is you look at bands. I mean, probably Shane will have some ideas, but you look at bands or artists that, in some senses, have some senses seem to resonate with what you do, and you find out who their manager is, and you start that way. But that's also a bit difficult, because I did Billy Bragg, so anyone who had a guitar and sang political songs would come to me and say, I think you'd be a really good manager for me. And I think, no, I've got Billy Bragg, okay, leave it alone. I think you find someone who starts being in your environment, who has or you come in touch with, maybe they're your publisher or your agent or someone who's producing your records, or your sister or your brother or your cousin who's,
not your brother.
Whoever it is, it's someone who seems to be, or your best friend from school who somehow or another is really keen, and they start helping you. They start doing things for you because they're involved. They want to, the managers come in all sorts of different ways, in all sorts of things like that. But they often do come from being the person who helped out, driving you around or doing something, or, could said, oh, you can't you're always so chaotic. I'll look after your diary for you, and you suddenly 2 years later you're paying half your money to them.
I guess question one, I'm the same as Peter. In terms of our clients. Well, historically, with my new company, most of our clients have come to us or been very lucky, but it's been a lot of work. And I got very lucky because I worked in a job where I was sort of neutral. I don't own any copyrights. I don't manage anyone directly. And I also, on the Canadian side, I controlled, I still do, the biggest Canadian event outside of Canada. I book it. So we have everyone coming to us. So I got lucky. And I got very, very lucky. I lived in Amsterdam for 3 years, and then I moved to London, and I lost my job, and I was broke, and I was in trouble. And I had an interview at this label through a friend of a friend, which I thought I bombed. I did horribly at. And they offered me the job of doing PR for Bjork. And the day I got in, I got no training. They just sat me down at the computer, said, get to work. That day she got arrested in China for singing Declare Independence Tibet at a show in Shanghai. And that was my big baptism of fire. And I survived that, and then I got more trust, and so on and so forth through that. That was an interesting experience. And on the manager side, the best manager comes to you, usually. You don't go to them. I still feel that's truthful. And the thing is hopefully if you're at a point where you're too busy to need a manager, you'll have options. Like, usually a few come out of the woodwork before then, showing interest in you, because, you know, managers are like rats around a brick of cheese. You know, they're going to sniff around and sniff around, and then when one person takes a bite, they all take a bite. And I love managers, by the way. And the one advice, look at the artists that you admire, look at the artists that you want to work with, look at who's managing them, and then just get in touch with them. Don't sell yourself. Just get in touch with them and develop a relationship.
Ask them to come see your show.
Ask them to come see your show, yeah. But
and I would say one other thing is that it's the sort of thing where, you know, your export office, Agnieszka and people, and Gunnar, who will know who are the possible managers around, know what you do, and they might better make suggestions, you know, try so-and-so, try so, or to save, you know, they might say, I'll get in touch with so-and-so and suggest they come to your show, you know, and see what happens. You know, who knows? You do an interview in the paper and you say, oh, I really need a manager. You know what I mean? And then perhaps someone sees that and gets in touch with you, you know.
Management is a fairly navigable field globally. There aren't a lot of big companies. There just aren't, comparative to other sectors of the music industry. Your music export office will know these people, or will know who to talk to, or will know people who know them. So, you know, I think it depends at what level you're at. Yeah, you know, find a friend or, you know, one thing that happened in Uganda is a bunch of artists came together and started a cooperative. And what they did is they all worked on their music, but they gave each other defined roles. So one became like the manager of the cooperative, building promotional material for everyone. One was the booking agent of the cooperative and looking for venues in Kampala and Jinja and in Rwanda, which is next door, and so on and so forth. And it's worked reasonably. There's been an upsurge in music industry development through this cooperative of started with 6 people, and now there's 100 people, and they have some funding to actually hire someone to do this and hire someone to do that. So I think, you know, the greatest network that you can have is in this room. And people, you don't look around and realize how much work you guys could potentially do together. And you have to look at your network at home and look at how you guys can all work together, which is the concept of an export office. You guys can all work together to create networks that have power. And a network has power, right? So if you're not saying, oh, I need, you know, I want like IE to manage me or something, the people who manage Robbie Williams, like, I wouldn't think that way. I'd think looking at who you admire locally, your friends, your coworkers, the scene, and say, guys, let's work together. Let's do a club night. Let's put out a split 7-inch. I don't know, there's all sorts of things you can do.
Your booking agent, if you have a booking agent, it might become your manager, or a publisher might become your manager, or your road manager might become your manager, or your driver might become your manager. You know, if you have any of those things, you know, especially in small countries, people have to have lots of different hats usually.
Yeah.
And so that someone who can help you professionally in as many ways as possible will be, they might call themselves your producer, but in fact maybe they're going to end up being your manager. Certainly I had a couple of acts I started as a producer and ended up as a manager, and the other way around. I started as a manager and ended up producing as well. Because, you know, oh God, I can do it. Why not? You know, sort of thing.
Yeah, I managed my band way back when in Canada when I was a stupid teenager, but I don't manage. But there's 2 things that you should do before you leave. One, I'm being serious, and one's a joke. The second one's First one is you should introduce yourself, at least in this room, to 2 people you don't know that aren't us. Because if you don't know people in this room, other people who live here, who are making music, you should go out and introduce each other. If you know people, that's lazy, you know. And second, ask Guna. She can manage you. She's a great manager. She's right there. You know, I would just sit outside her house, get some flowers, bake one of those like things that had plums in it outside that we ate earlier. And you know, no, but seriously, please, everyone, really, you don't. Sometimes you leave a room not realizing the networking potential that you have in this room.
And the most important thing about anyone as manager, they've got to be truthful to you, and they've got to really like what you do. And genuinely like what you do, and be genuinely enthusiastic, and be willing to tell you when that's a terribly bad song. You know, no, that doesn't work. That set was really bad. You've had it all upside down. That dress doesn't look good on you. Whatever it is, you know, you've got to have someone who you have confidence that they like what you do and that they like your work overall, but then they've got the freedom to also be critical. Because once you've got that confidence in them, then you can take criticism. If I just come up to you and say, oh, you look terrible, you'll think, what a horrible person I am. But if you know I like what you do, and say, but that song you sang in the middle of the set was really, you lost the audience with that song. That was a real mistake. Then you'll say, oh, okay. And you may disagree, but you'll at least think about whether you should put that song in a different place in the set and things like that.
Yeah, a manager's like a platonic life partner, in a way, or can be. You know, it's someone that you share intimate moments with in every sense of the word except the kinetic sense of the word, for the most part, unless you're like Neil Young, his wife manages him. But that's usually a mistake. Yeah, and that's usually a mistake. And please, 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 no momagers or dadagers. I plainly refuse to work with anyone who is managed by their parents in one way or another. That's just my... But no, you know, it's all about trust and professionalism and honesty and transparency. And you're probably going to spend... The only person that you will spend more time with is your significant other. Other than that, you're a manager. You know? So you have to make sure that you don't just take anyone. You're not, you know, you don't just pick someone up off the street and you know, take them out to dinner and other things. Like you pick your mates. It's the same with a manager. You're welcome.
Well, I'm asking a question about the thing which Peter told in the first part of the discussion about not necessarily needing another Beatles or another Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, but on that part, if we mention them as hats, then after these years, when the years have passed, the songs still remain, and if you play them over and over again, they kind of, you get slowly but fed up with them. There's need for new content, and in that case, isn't there also a market for those who aren't as creative to create a new style, new identity, to have some sort of succession like almost the same, not the same, but what would, for example, Pink Floyd do if they were now in this multimedia era, and having like maybe the old band also recognizing that they're legitimate or worthy successors?
I saw a band in Poland called Pink Floyd, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we all steal. And you may call it homage, or you may call it debt or something, but no. I mean, things will come out and things get recycled. I think, you know, it's a, you know, no one invented the scale. You know, no one invented the blues. You know, no one invented the polka. They sort of emerge and they change and they move, and you will draw your influences. And if you're conscious of the fact that you're, you know, that you want to do something which is like a modern Pink Floyd, it might work. It might not work, but it might work. And if it works, it works. But that would sound like something new. You know, you can see, you know, if you look at the history of pop music, you can see how this led to that led to that, and then they took a bit of this, and, you know, there's a bit of country music, there's a bit of blues music, you know, and you can see how those things, and that's how music develops. I mean, it's in a way, I think very fundamentally, I'm very skeptical about copyright as the idea that suddenly somebody has a brilliant idea. All music is recycling in some way or another things which you've experienced or you've heard, and you've shuffled it around and you changed it, and, you know, you play this great new song, and then someone says, doesn't that sound exactly like, you know, you can't get, you know, yesterday. And you think, oh, blimey, it is. And what you've done is actually, you didn't realise it, but you've just played yesterday, but you didn't know. It's like the thing with George Harrison, who played with My Sweet Lord, wasn't it, which was somebody else's song. He hadn't, I don't think he knew it. And that was that weird judgment that said it was a subconscious plagiarism. And I think that in a sense, I don't like that, because I think in a way that's what music is. You know, we do, you know, language, we learned from our parents. We didn't invent the language. We don't, you know, every idea I've got, I picked up from somewhere else. And so it's been through the meat grinder of my brain and come out all wrong, or right, or different, or, you know. And I can give you an example, which I think is really interesting. It's one of the sort of classic songs that the Floyd did early on was something called Interstellar Overdrive. And that was a song which was based, I was sitting around with Syd Barrett, and I hummed a song to him, which was a song from Love, which I was so out of tune. He said, oh, is it like this? And then it was a different song. But it started as being me humming another person's song. And it comes out as being one of their sort of standby songs for years. So, you know, that's what we do. You know, everybody, we are, I think human beings are copying machines. That's why I get so angry about all this stuff about copyright and theft and what is copyright. We are all copying machines. That's what we are. That's what human beings are. And that's why I think we're all so excited and influenced by and hate and love computers, because they really are copying machines. We sort of mix it all up a bit more. We're not very good as copyists. And that's what makes us interesting, is how we mash up the copy. So, yes, go ahead. Rip it all off, as long as you don't get caught.
First off, I haven't given anyone my email address. I was supposed to. I can just, it's just Shain, S-H-A-I-N. That's how you spell my name, S-H-A-I-N. In Latvian, it's different. I know that. There's like a little thingy above the S and no H. At sounddiplomacy.com. My company name, Sound Diplomacy. So please feel free to email me. If you want, I'll email you back, but it may take a couple days. I don't know, to me, originality is just taking something someone else is doing and just making it a little bit different. It's like, so... Or somebody else is. Or somebody else is, yeah. You know, that's true originality. Unless you like invent a new musical instrument, which I've been very lucky. I've been a part of people who have done that. I've been a part of projects where that has happened. But you know, it's fine. Just don't make shitty music that is a copycat of the Beatles, unless you know, make music that is influenced by the Beatles but is still your own music.
Don't think of it as being influenced by the Beatles. Think of it as being Think of it as being your own original creation. That would be much better.
Yeah, you know, and I think people's influences are really kind of moot nowadays. No one really cares. You fill your biography with like, you know, influenced by or sounds like. And this is the one thing I said, you know, if I put something on, after 30 seconds, I'll know whether I want to turn it off or keep listening. Like, I don't care what it sounds like. If I like it or it makes sense to me, I'll keep listening. But if I don't like it, all I need is 30 seconds. Maybe a minute max, you know. People put all this effort into like a full album, and yeah, you know. And
you won't believe, but it's been already 2 hours since we are talking here.
Good God, they put up with it.
God, and, these people deserve a medal.
So I think we should now say big thank you for coming over, and. Visiem Lijā jautā tādu lietu, kad jūs iesiet projām, ir novērtējuma lapas, kuras jums vajadzētu aizpildīt, lai saprastu, kā jums patika, un arī, lai saprastu arī, ko varbūt citas reizes mainīt vai nemainīt. So, thank you so much for coming, and you're welcome to Latvia to some holidays or just a trip to Latvia.
Thank you.